Hey crew, it's Pitt and I'm back with a little bit something different. Today I get to do something that I am absolutely thrilled to be able to do. Today we get to have a celebration video. This is one of the milestones for the channel has definitely been crossed, and I am so very thankful to all of the crew for your participation in the achievements that have stacked upon the channel. Before we begin, however, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, or if at any point in time I lose you, there will be several playlists linked in the corner above in the box down below, along with my book and the links to get in contact with me, just so that you can get a better understanding of who I am and why I say the things that I do. I didn't want to leave that out, but today is mainly a victory lap. And by a victory lap, I do not mean that the race is over, but now it has officially well begun. When we began this channel, it was a lot different than where we are today. I was not nearly as well versed in talking out loud to people as I am. My voice was pretty close to non-existent. I had physical tremors across the left side of my body. I had a great deal of problems. This channel has allowed me to overcome a great deal of those. This has been talk therapy in very many ways. This has been me working out a lot of very complicated ideas, working through a lot of history, going through and learning where my place is in the greater scheme of things. This has become a channel for seeking the truth more than anything. It has become guided towards trying to discern between what is real and what is not, what could be, what might be, and some of those things are a little bit well into the realm of speculation. I believe in magic, for instance. My book is a guidebook on how to do that. But there's a lot of other issues that we've dealt with along the way. We've dealt with psychoanalysis in some small measure. We've dealt with the individuation of the soul in great measure. We have dealt with the complicated understandings of alchemy. We've dealt with the understandings of logic. We've gone through the processes by which other people have attempted to enact control systems that may or may not have been well-intentioned. But all of that is aimed at helping, right? The entire goal of this channel has always been to help other people. When we did reactions, it was about doing the reactions that would help people, not the ones that would please them. It was about stepping on those toes and learning that it is okay to step on toes if those toes are across the line. There has been a lot of evolution on this channel. We have grown together. I've lost many of you, right? And I say many of you, those people will not watch, but this is a process of fluctuations. The numbers go up, the numbers go down. That is the game. I have to tell myself that fairly regularly because they do. There will be a gain in subscribers and then you'll lose some. There'll be a gain in views and then you'll lose some. It's an ebb and flow, a natural cycle. And the recognition of that cycle and the understanding of what it means is why we're here. There are patterns that govern what we do in life, and we can use those patterns or we can be used by those patterns. In explanation of this, well, first let's do the other part, right? What have we done? Right, we have accomplished something on this channel that many people do not. Right, three very specific things that were goals. Right, when I began this channel, I was like, I am going to overwhelm. Right, I am going to flood the content to such a degree that there is no possibility that you will not, at least at some point in time, see the video. Right, you will at least see the thumbnail, even if you don't click on it. That's the game. But getting out there, being part of the process, getting to the point where you can be seen, involves setting yourself into percentages, right? The main scope of this is going to be talking about percentages and how you can place yourself in the pyramid of percentages so that success is pretty much inevitable. The very first one of those, I was going to put out enough content where at least you would see the thumbnail, right? I'm not asking for everybody. That has never been the goal. This channel is open to anyone. It is not for everyone. What we do over here is very very specific. We are helping to enlighten. We are helping people to identify their own goals in their life, how to deal with their shadow side and to integrate it, how to integrate the light side of you as well, because there is a balance to be stricken, and we say that a lot. But one of the ways that you do that, right, you have to place yourself in a position where you can be recognized. The goal of this, the very first step, was to get out there. Get enough content to where you have to be recognized, and we did, right? Now, I am not nearly trying to say that everybody is going to see the channel, but we beat one of the percentages. We made it to the top 10% in one of the categories that is available, right? We made it, right? This is a victory. This is one of the victories. It is not a final victory, but this is definitely a victory. We set ourselves as a channel in the top 10% of all channels. Out of everybody who intentionally uploads with the idea that you are going to make money at this, that this will be something that you are doing, 90% do not upload at the frequency and the consistency that I do. That is not to toot my own horn, right? I do this because I love it. I do this because it is useful. I do this because we have been able to help people change their lives. That is the goal, has always been the goal, and will remain the goal. Because of the things that we do on this channel, some people are still here. Some people have decided that they do not want to go home anymore. Some people have decided that this battle is worth fighting. And that is an overwhelming blessing. I cannot stress enough how impactful it is to me every single time one of you tells me that I have impacted your life in a positive manner. When one of you says, wow, that really hit. I really got it now. That really helped me to understand what this is. That is a blessing to me, and I thank God every single time it happens. Every single time that there is a comment, hey, this helped me change my life. I give thanks to God every single time that happens. And so this is not me bragging. This is me showing appreciation. Because if you had not been here, if the crew had not shown up, I probably would have given up a long time ago. This has been a long slog. It has not got a lot of rewards other than the emotional side of things, right? There's not a lot of money in YouTube. There's really not. At some point, you get to the point where it is, where you do start making money, right? I make about $20, between $20 and $30 a month for all of my efforts over here. Being in the top 10% of uploaders on YouTube, I make about $20 to $30 a month. Sometimes the crew is generous and you give me super thanks or the various other ways of donating. And that helps, right? That increases that number a little bit, but add revenue. About $20 to $30 a month, which isn't terrible, right? If you're not depending upon that to be your primary source of income, it's not a terrible thing. You get a little bit extra every month. You can buy a little bit of something. Not a whole lot of anything, but a little bit of something. And that's fine because this has never been about the monetary value. That will come, I am sure. This has been about reach. This has been about hitting enough people to where we can actually make a change in the world. And we are. We are making a change in the world. We, as a crew, we're correcting a lot of things, and we're touching a lot of people. I made this achievement right here. This was done just over a month ago. It was October the 1st. I got the email. I think it was October the 1st. I got the email. Hey, look. You passed 1 million views. That is another one of those percentages. We have stacked 2 of the top 10% percentages already. Most people who begin this process, they do not upload with consistency. They do not have the volume, and that's not a dig on them, right? Some of them provide great service, great value at a much lesser rate. That is fine. But many of them will never surpass 1 million views on the channel at all. That is an achievement that places us in the top 10%. We again are in the top 10%. Most people will not achieve 1 million views across their channel. That is another thing to be thankful for. We are reaching people. We are helping people, and it is reinforced by the comments that I get. It is reinforced by the positive affirmations that come from what we do. Right? We are getting out there. We are touching people. We are helping people to realize things in their own lives. That is another blessing, and is another stack in the pyramid of percentages. In addition to that, we have hit another goal that again places us in the top 10% of all YouTube creators. And this one might surprise you just a little bit. We hit 5,000 subscribers. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot. It has been a long slog. We have had severe difficulties. YouTube tried to make it where this would not happen. Right? It almost succeeded. I almost quit during the censorship purge of 2022. But perseverance, redirection, that is a thing. And if you can accept that you are being redirected, then you can accept that maybe the path that you were on were not quite the right one. It was close, but it wasn't quite right. What we have done over the last 3 years on this channel is redirect. We went from one direction where it was a lot political. When I began this channel, the very first video on this channel, which you cannot even find here anymore, you've got to go to the alternatives, was me reading the news and commenting in a political manner on the things that were the topics of the day. This was when COVID was rolling out. This was when a lot of those issues were in the forefront. And I was loud. I was very boisterous. I was not exactly nice in many ways. This was before the transformation of the last few years on this channel. But we persevered. We pivoted where we needed to pivot. We accepted the correction. We accepted that maybe the path was not exactly correct. Reactions were a natural outflow. Well, we went from the news. I lost my voice. You can go back and trace this in the alternatives. Again, it is a little bit harder to do on YouTube because of censorship. But you can see where I lost my voice. You can watch it happen in real time. You can hear me in some of the videos be like, man, I do not know what is going on with my voice. I do not understand why I'm having difficulty talking. I said that. I didn't know it. I didn't know. And then I went to the doctor and I found out about the cyst. And then I had the resolution, right? I could have had my cyst removed. That was an option. It would have put us in a little bit of financial bind, but not an overbearing one. I have insurance. They would have covered a great deal of it. There was still some out-of-pocket expenses, but I was told not to do it. And when I say I was told not to do it, I was told not to do it. It was that still small voice that you have to feed. That still small voice that we talk about when we go through Jung, when we talk about alchemy. The other side of the conscious choice is the unconscious suggestion. And the suggestion was, when God is ready for you to talk, the cyst will be removed. And I went with that. I rolled with that, even though it was not something that I was comfortable with. That was well outside of my comfort zone. My wife had some severe objections to that. She was very much like, this is not that dangerous. You could go and have this done in a day. You could be back to where you were within a month, right? That was the option. And I didn't. I told her no. God told me no. Whenever he's ready for it to come out, that's when it's going to come out. And she did not like that, right? My wife loves me. She cares for me. She wants me to be the best I can be when she can recognize it. And so she was an advocate for me going and getting the cyst removed. And I said no. We were on a path. And my voice was obstructed for a reason. And that was what I was told, right? I was restricted from using my voice until I could use it correctly. That was the basics of it. And again, you can go back and watch it in real time. What we have done over here is find the path that allows us to best serve humanity. That is That is how I look at it. I am called to something, right? Everybody is called to something that they do fairly well. Now, I don't claim to be the best at exegesis, which is reading aloud and discussing as we go along the various points that are brought to light by the text. But it is something that I can do. I'm fairly good at it. I don't claim to be the best, but I'm probably in the top 10% of people who actually do it, right? That doesn't mean I'm the best, but it means I am dedicated. It doesn't mean that I'm the best, but it means that I am on the path and that I will remain on the path. And that path is what has led to this. We went from the political news commentary into MBTI because I was trying to get a grip on me. I had a lot of problems. Again, you can fall back and watch the process unfold. My first MBTI video did not go like I thought it would. Right? It was not great. Steve Aoki, you can find that one, maybe even still on YouTube. But the process did not work. It did not work at all. It was very subjective. The terminology was not clear. And so I sat down with a mission, again, what I feel like was direction, to clarify the system into something that is objectively usable. And I did. I feel like I have fairly well executed that, even though it has not gotten any attention. That will come. Maybe after I'm dead. That seems to be a pattern for most people, and that is fine. The information is there. Some people have already used it to their benefit. That is the goal. That is what we are doing. The MBTI stuff led into the reactions, right? I was doing the MBTI, and I was like, let me react to this guy that I just did an MBTI for, and I did that. And then I got my first request. Shannon, my very first comment of actual substantive value, my number one day one, Shannon Garcia, was like, hey, how about you do a reaction to this and do a type to this, right? I believe it was Loza Alexander. And so we did. That was the lead in to really doing the reaction videos. And that led to some wonderful places. We pivoted away from politics slowly but surely. We dealt with mental health issues, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, familial relationships, spousal relationships, all of the problems that people face, we dealt with in real time. We used the music as a springboard to have discussions of greater depth. And that's where I started seeing returns. That is where I started seeing, hey, this helped me, right? This helped me to change my life in the way that I wanted it to go. And I was like, this is onto something. And so I dug in. I doubled down. I started putting out all those videos. I started creating the content and leaning into it. I started trying to refine my presentation. I started trying to clarify the audio and to get the video correct, get the lighting done, all of the things that are part of it. And I'm not the best, but I'm working at it. I'm diligent in my returns, and it puts me in the percentages. We went from the reactions, and then it got to the point where I felt like maybe I was being a little bit too preachy. That is a thing, but in the middle of the reactions, we did a Bible study. That Bible study started in one direction, and it went in a completely different direction. I had to change the title. When we began the playlist, it was Lessons from the Book. And then about halfway, I was like, you know what, I don't know that I want to do this. And I stopped. I stopped for several months because I was very much concerned about the personal ramifications of the process. The things that I was learning was definitely not in alignment with what I thought that it was. The unconventional Bible study went a whole different direction. I learned that while the Bible does contain truth, it is not the truth. There is many things within it that is self-contradictory. Many things. As a matter of fact, there may be a work coming out fairly soon that enumerates about 44 of them in some great detail with scientific annotations. The Bible study concluded, and that led us into discovering other works. We went into Esoterica, we went into philosophy. We've dealt with some fairly significant pieces of literature. Not all of them because, copyright is a thing, and even with exegesis, you still face some of that. What I do is completely transformative, right? There are very few exceptions. The science of logic is one of the notable ones because some of those chapters I just simply didn't have anything to add. It was self-evident, self-explanatory, and fairly well-defined. And so I didn't have anything to add. Some of them I did. We did the lighter analogy a lot, right? There was a whole lot of that. Learning definitions, getting clarified on the things, being able to present it in a way that is effective. We have pivoted wherever we have found necessary as we go along, and we are on the edge of another pivot. I do not know that I will ever give up the exegesis completely, but I am in the middle of my own works, right? Today, this video right here is the first video that I made in 4 days. That is the longest break that I have taken since I began this, right? I have not taken a break more than a day, 2 tops, even when I broke my leg, right? I still got up, I still made my videos, I still got in, I still hammered them out. The pivot that is coming is we have gotten past the groundwork. We have gotten past the point where I needed to assimilate new knowledge. Not that I ever need to stop assimilating new knowledge. That is a continual process. But it is time for clarifications to become the norm. It is time for certain things to fall away. That is intentional phrasing. It is time for other things to rise into the forefront, and part of that is conscious intention in your own life. And now we're going to get to the percentages. There is a thing that is called the Pareto distribution. I refer to it quite often because it explains a lot of things. It started off, right, we have it here, this is the wiki. And I will, as I always do, point out that the wiki is a great place to begin any investigation. It will give you a great idea of how better to investigate the topics that are at question, but it is never to be the end point of a research investigation. This platform, Wikipedia, is politically biased to a high degree. Any article that has any political significance whatsoever is going to be skewed to one side. I will not name the side. You already know what it is. And so you should always independently verify. We did a lot of our groundwork videos going through the wiki, reading about the people, their lives, and then we dive into their works and we see what is actually said, not the summary that is politically motivated. But for some things, it is perfectly fine, right? Some things are objectively true. Some things have a subjective lens. Climate change, that is subjective. There is definitely the argument to be made that carbon is plant food, that more carbon in the atmosphere is actually beneficial to life on the planet. That argument is not only possible, it is probable. It is almost certainly the case, and I only say almost because I do not hold the credentials to state it definitively. The research that I have done personally and in public have shown rather conclusively that the opposite is true, that anthropomorphic climate change is not really an issue. I know I'll probably get flagged underneath the video for that, but such is life. The mathematics, that you can rely upon in with Wiki, right? That's where I was going with it. What we have here is the Pareto distribution. It was created by Vilfredo Pareto, and it was meant to discuss the allocation of wealth, right? That is what this note here is. But one of the things that it noted is that 20% of the population has 80% of the wealth. That was the first correlation that was found. But above that, you can subdivide it. If you take that 20% of the population and further divide that, 20% of that population holds 80% of that wealth, and so on continuously until you get to the top elite percentages. But in addition to that, there are other things that are affected, right? All four variables of household budget, consumption, labor income, capital income, and wealth are affected by the Pareto distribution. The sizes of human settlements, the file size distribution in internet traffic and the TCP protocol, hard drive error disk rates, clusters of Bose-Einstein condensate near absolute zero, the values of oil reserves, the length distribution in jobs assigned to supercomputers. There is a whole list here. It is not exhaustive. What we can do from this information is make an extrapolation, and it is almost certainly going to be true. If you can find a way to set yourself into the top 20%, then you will succeed. Is that a guarantee? Absolutely not. But it is a fairly good bet. If you can find a way to put yourself into a singular point where you are in the top 10%, top 20% even, you will almost certainly succeed. If you can, for instance, write a book, that puts you in the top 10% of the population. Most people who want to write a book never begin. Most people who begin never get a rough draft. Of the people who get a rough draft, most people do not complete a polish. Of the people who complete a polish, most people do not publish. And so if you can publish a polished book, no matter how insignificant it may seem, you have already set yourself into the top 10% of the human population. If you can stack those percentages into a pyramid, right? A pyramid of percentages at which you are placing yourself into those top percentages, then it is almost guaranteed that success must follow. Will it be automatic? No. You will still have to work. You have to maintain yourself in that top percentage. But you can see it play out in real life. You can see people who have made the decision for themselves to set themselves apart, overwhelmingly becoming successful. Take professional sports, for instance. Most people who play junior league sports will never proceed to high school level. Most people who play at high school level will never proceed to collegiate. Most people who play at collegiate level will never reach professional. But everyone who has placed themselves is in the pool of selection. You will not play on a professional level unless you have played at one of the lesser ones at a minimum, setting yourself apart. The people who succeed in becoming professional athletes are the top 10%, 20%, 10% of elite. They have a dedication that surpasses the normal. They are at training every single day. Whether or not they feel like it, it is not about feelings. It is about the process. Creating a process sets you apart. If you are dedicated enough to practice when nobody is watching, you are set apart. Most people will not achieve that. If you are dedicated enough to sit down and plan how to get there, you've already beaten 40% of the population. 40% of the population will never make a plan to improve themselves. If you can do that, you've already set yourself apart. If you can work your plan, you have set yourself apart inside of that percentage. And if you can stack the decisions that you have made, right? If you can take, this is my specialization, I am going to go into it, and you do, right? I decide to become this, and you go into this. And then once you are in there, you say, I am going to be the very best at this that I can possibly be. I'm going to set myself into a position where I'm at the top percentage of people in this field that is already a top percentage. And you plan it, you work it diligently, you can achieve that. And you will set yourself again into a higher 20% bracket. The level of dedication that you have to enable yourself to succeed depends entirely upon your willingness to set yourself apart from your peers. Whenever you begin an exercise regime, right, if you have lived a life of, say, 45 years of relative inactivity, and you have been surrounded by people who are relatively inactive as well, and you decide that, hey, I'm going to start exercising on a daily basis, you will meet resistance. That resistance will be in the form of, why are you doing that? You don't need to do that. You're going to hurt yourself if you try to do that. Do you think that you're better than other people? Right? People will try to limit you from becoming who you were meant to be. And so you have to learn to discern and to decide. Is this person telling me this because they care, or are they telling me this as a projection of their own fear? Most of the time, it is a projection of their own fear. They are scared of abandonment. If you change your life, maybe you won't want to associate with me anymore. They are scared that they do not have the dedication to do it themselves. And that is true. Most of them do not. You get to decide your destiny. You get to decide whether you want to set yourself apart. But you must understand that if you do, you will be set apart. Most people do not want to be in the top 20%. They think they do. They scream and yell about how they do, but they don't. If they did, they would work for it. The goal of this channel has always been to enable you to be able to do you with the most knowledge, to be able to make the best decision with the best available information, to achieve what you desire in your life. I tell you all of the time that I have no right to change your life. I have no right to even attempt to do so. What I do have a right to do is to express that there is a better option. Right? If you are coming home, sitting on your ass and watching Netflix all day, right, with no consideration for your health, with no consideration for your relationships, then you are going to reap those rewards and they will not be pleasant. And if you can decide, I'm going to take control of my health, I'm going to invest in my relationships, that sets you apart already. You making decisions to better yourself sets you apart from most of the population. Most of the population is perfectly fine with complacency. I never have been. I have never been okay with just being normal. That has been a problem for most of my life, but it has turned into the blessing of my life. The fact that I am perfectly fine with being the outsider has been because I don't want to comport with most people. Most people are miserable. I am not. I really am not. I have... saying the best life would be prideful, right? But for the most part, there is concordance and harmony in my life. Not entirely. My religious beliefs and my wife's religious beliefs are not the same, but we love each other. We understand, for the most part, autonomy. We understand that maybe the path will not be the same, and honestly, some of that might be changing because of the works that I am dealing with now. But once again, I have to separate myself. Now to the pivot, right? It is time to no longer be reliant upon other people's works. I'm in the middle of a study. We are doing the Theatrum Chemicum Britannicum. We are on part 3 of the second part, right? The not Norton's Ordinal, but what's his name? I'm gonna have to look at it real quick. Well, it's not gonna tell me. I forget his name, but we're opening the 12 gates of alchemy, We're on the fourth gate, but the third gate was a weird one, right? It was almost as if Spirit was telling me, you know what, you've done enough here, right? Most of what we're going to be finding in the theatrum is confirmation bias. And while that is a wonderful thing, right, it makes me happy to find 600 years ago written down the exact same things that I told you through my own discoveries, right? That's great. But I'm not entirely sure that it is going to be progressing the conversation in a way that it is time for. The third gate was interrupted in a way that is not normal in the slightest, right? I lost power halfway through, not even halfway through, a third of the way into the video. I lost power, and there was a whole process of recovering the information that was lost that is definitely outside of the norm. That felt like a reiteration of what I was already kind of hearing, right? And so we are going to finish the theatrum, right? It may take me a little longer than I planned because I am working on some other things. Once that happened, it was like something clicked in my head. And once that click happens, things change fairly quickly around me, right? Whenever I had that click for reactions, we were done. There was no real return, right? We can't go back. It is going to be the same for this. I don't think we will ever get away from exegesis, right? The reading of the text aloud and discussing as we go along. But it is probably going to take a shift more into oppositionals, right? Looking for correctional materials as opposed to the confirmation bias materials that I'm getting from the theatrum. I am also setting myself up in opposition to a large chunk of the population. I made a post over the weekend about if you knew what I was doing, you would probably tell me not to. That is true. I'm going to proceed regardless. Some of you may get an inkling about what that is. I am going to be looking for some readers. If you are interested in being a beta reader, let me know down below in the comments, but that is a very limited window. This is probably going to be done before the Thanksgiving break. I have 3 works that I am putting out. One of them is the second edition of this, which will be significantly I don't want to say improved, because this works as it stands in not fullness, but in practicality. You can take the things that I have already put into this book and put them into place in your life and affect it in great ways. But in addition to that, there will be much more information involved in this. We are getting into music theory and how that goes into alchemy. We are dealing with the harmonics and greater extrapolations on several of the concepts. Some greater examples. We're bringing in a section on tarot and divination. We're bringing in several other things, right? Dealing with them in the way that we have dealt with everything else. I'm also doing 2 more works. One of them I can name. One of them I will not name until it is out, for a reason that will be evident once it is out. Again, if you have been here for an extended amount of time, you can probably infer what it is going to be by what I say next. I have found a process of taking the videos, the things that we have done, the exegesis that we have gone through, and extracting from those playlists my core understandings in opposition to the current understandings. One of these works is going to be the finishing of the Mysterium Conjunctio. We're going to finish Jung's work. That appears to be one of the things that I'm going to be doing, because Chapter 4 in this book does that in one way, right? Chapter 4 in this book is understanding yourself. The understanding yourself deals with the MBTI system, which is an extrapolation from Jung's work, bringing to a conclusion, in my estimation, the functionality of the archetypes. The volume that I am currently working on that will be bringing that about is the synthesis of the study that we did on the conjunctio. There will be another one which will almost certainly step on the toes of about a third of the population of the planet. And so if you're interested in being involved in that process, let me know down below. We will work out the details. Again, this is a voluntary process. You will be seeing the videos, not the videos, you will be seeing the work prior to publication for a beta read situation. That's where we're going to go ahead and start bringing this together for a conclusion. The setting up part is definitely part of this, right? The amount of videos that I upload was intentional. My strategy was to overwhelm till we got to the point where you had to see the videos. We're in the top 10%, right? I can't really do more than I do, right? Even now, some of the videos are going to have to slow down by necessity because of the volume of work that I am doing with these 3 volumes. One of which is functionally complete, 2 of which are still in the process of completion before refinement, but I expect both of those to be done before this week is out, and this is the week of November the 3rd. I fully expect to release all 3 of these volumes by Thanksgiving, right? But I want to hit the Black Friday sales, and so that means that I have about a week to a week and a half to refine and get the primary upload done so that it can be approved for printing. There's a 7-day process of approval. If I'm wanting to hit the target date, it's got to be fairly quickly. But I am setting myself again with intentionality into the top percentages of the planet, right? That sounds so fucking prideful, but it's not. It is intentional decisions to align myself with leadership. I am stepping into a position, asking actively to be placed in a position of leadership. And these books, which will be videos on the other side of the publishing effort, is me doing that, right? I am stepping out definitively on several topics as what appears to be the best living authority. And it brings me no pleasure to state that particular thing, right? To me, that seems heady. But with the understanding of alchemy, for instance, we went through the work of Jung. Jung is considered to be the epitome of the alchemical process as an understanding, but his work was incomplete. He never finished the final step of the alchemical process. That is not physical alchemy, chemical. That is spiritual alchemy, the internals. Because his work is viewed as the definitive, the derivatives of it are building upon a broken foundation. And so whenever you see someone discussing the Jungian concepts of alchemy, they're wrong. They're blatantly wrong. It is a complete functional misunderstanding of the intrinsic terminology. What I have done repeatedly is clarify terms. That is what we did here in large degree, right? The MBTI as the most prevalent example thereof. The terminology that is associated with the system in the general population is ill-defined, misses the mark in several instances, and is misapplied almost universally. I have clarified the terms from subjective into objective to the best of my ability, right? And again, that seems awfully prideful to say, but it is a truth. It is functionally able to work in objective rationality as opposed to observed patterns of subjective behavior. I have done that with these other works as well, but that process is setting apart, right? That's not going into the 20%. That is stepping into the 1%. I am asking actively to be placed in a leadership position because I believe that I can handle it. I believe that I have what it takes, both in the understanding and in the moral turpitude, to actually stand on the business that needs to be stood upon and to not give in to the forces that absolutely will be brought into play as I publish these works. I think I'm starting to get into a ramble more than I am into an appreciation video, which is what this is meant to be, right? It is through our efforts. I could not, by any means, do this alone. This 5K achievement, that is something that is well worth taking pride in. It is setting apart into the top 10%. The publication of a book is worth taking pride in. It is setting into the top 10%. I am narrowing myself into as many top percentages as I possibly can. Some of them will always be outside of my attainment. By that I mean, I will almost certainly, right? I don't like dealing in absolutes, but I will almost certainly never hold a degree. I will not go and pay to be brainwashed away from logical assumptions. I will not pay to be brainwashed into following the doctrine regardless of whether it is correct. And so I almost certainly will not ever hold a degree. That keeps me from that percentage. There is a percentage of degree holders that is separated into a further percentages of degree holders, right? Bachelor's, associates, masters, and doctorates are all different levels. If you have a bachelor's degree, I think that puts you in the top 30%. If you have the master's, you're into the top 20, and if you are at a doctorate level, you are at 10% or higher, right? But I will almost certainly never be in those because I will not toe the doctrine line. I will not say that this is true simply to get the passing grade, and that is a requirement in our higher education systems, and so I almost certainly will not achieve that. Some of them are outside of my scope, but anything that I can align myself with that is going to put me into the differentiation zone, that is what I'm going to do. And so, I am setting myself apart, but it is a cumulative, cooperative effort. I can put up the videos, but if you don't show up, it does no good. If I put up 10,000 videos, like I'm over 3,500 right now in the last 5 years. I'm over 3,500 videos in 5 years. I can put up 10,000. But if nobody shows up, we do not hit 1 million videos or 1 million views, right? Now that is across the entire channel. That is not a single video. That is fine, right? That is, again, another percentage that we will get to with cooperation. If you don't show up, we don't hit 1 million views. If you don't show up, we do not have 5,000 subscribers. If you don't show up, the mission stalls. And so I want to make sure that it is abundantly clear. There is no channel without the crew. The use of the terminology crew is intentional. It is multi-layered. It has several different effects. I am Pitt, right? My name is Jeremy Pittman, but since I was in kindergarten, maybe first grade, I have been Pitt. There were 3 Jeremys in my kindergarten and first grade class. We were differentiated by our last names. Pittman got shortened into Pitt, and I have been that way for my entire life. Nobody that knows me intimately calls me by my first name. But because I am Pitt, it was a natural outflow. The Pitt crew. There is a such thing as a Pitt crew. What does the Pitt crew do? They provide support. They provide advice. They are the mechanism by which the racer gets to the end. That is a crew. That is a functionality. In addition to that, a crew is a group. Not just any group. right? I could call you a community, but a community can imply that there might be some disharmony. Within a crew, there is intentionality. Every single person that is involved in a crew serves a function. Whether that is the engineer down there greasing the things, or whether it's the fire controlman trying to make sure that we are safe, if it is the mess specialist trying to feed us, if it is the sonar technician ensuring that we do not run into things, everybody on a crew has a purpose. Now, the functionality of that, the execution of that is up to the individual level, but everybody that is in a crew is there intentionally. They have signed up for it. They have decided what their job will be, and they execute their job to the best of their ability. And that is why I have a pit crew. Because this is not a single effort. It is guided by me. You could call me a navigator. I don't know that I would place myself into captain quite yet. But that is the goal. This is a leadership assumption. That is what we are doing. I have already defined myself on public record as the authority for spiritual alchemy. There is nobody else that I have run across that has the understanding that is the right one. That is a big, bold statement, but it is true. That is true for some other things as well. This is one. The other work is also one. And if you've been around a while, you know what the other one is going to be, right? The one that is absolutely going to set off everybody. I might lose some crew, but regardless, it must be. It must happen because the clarification of the truth is vitally important. And my role is that, to navigate, at least as right now. I'm not necessarily making the decisions, right? The crew has recommended me things to investigate, and those recommendations have led us here. This was not me just randomly deciding what I was going to do. You gave me the ideas. You gave me the list of source materials to go through. You helped me to complete my function, and I am eternally grateful. If it ends today, if the entire channel was to go away today, we have already accomplished some very good things. We have helped people save their own lives. There is no more important aspect of what I do than that right there. That is the most important part, to realize you don't get to decide to go home on your own. That you are here for a purpose, and until you complete that purpose, you are here. You don't get to go. That is the main function of how we started, and I am appreciative that we have done so. I don't know that I have a whole lot more here to add. I have put myself into the positions of the percentages. I have stacked my pyramid brick by brick with intentionality. Some of those things I cannot control, right? As an example, I will use what I normally do, right? I'm a left hand. I am a left-handed individual. I write with my left hand. That puts me in the top, I'll say 10%. It's closer to 3. The top 10% of the population, I have zero control over that. I have hazel eyes. That, well, with a caveat, right? Hazel puts me into the top 10%. Again, that is closer to 3. I also have heterochromia, which means that my eyes are really 2 different colors. I am hazel and I am blue. That again separates me into another top percentage. But I don't have any control over those. Those are things that I was born with. The uploads, that is a choice. I chose to put myself into the top percentage. The view count, in a way, is a choice, right? Putting myself into public was me choosing to be viewed. You showing up was the fulfillment of that choice, but it was a choice that I made that separated me. Each one of the percentages are real. You can separate yourself. You don't have to be a creator. You can separate yourself into your specificity, right? If you are a crane operator, you're already in a high percentage. There are not a lot of you. But if you are the top crane, right, the top 10% of crane operators, then you are in a whole different rarefied air, right? You're in a different stratigraphy. You're in a different layer. You can decide to do that, but you have to be intentional with it and understand that there are consequences from separation. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully, I conveyed the message in the way that it was intended. This is an appreciation video more than anything. I cannot stress how appreciative I am for each and every one of the crew members, most especially for those of you who show up every day. Right? I know who you are, and you comment quite often. You are here, if not every day. Like, I put out a lot of videos. It's hard to keep up. I get it. For a while there, I was putting up 3 hours a day. That's a lot. That is a lot to slog through. I don't expect you, right? I don't expect everybody to watch every video. Find the ones that resonate. I am appreciative. I am thankful for every single member of the crew every single time that you show up. I try to show that appreciation. I at least heart the comments. If I am away, I do not reply because it's on the phone and I don't see well and my fingers are clumsy. If I am sitting at the computer, I will probably reply. But I do try to show that appreciation. I love each and every one of you. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and wrap this up so I don't keep rambling. This is about appreciation. If you like what I'm doing over here, I understand. Right? That's going to bring us to the end of this video. I understand I hold some unconventional beliefs and I have a tendency to step on toes when I relay those. It is not intentional, but it is not something that I apologize for. Hopefully, I have expressed well enough the actual appreciation that I really do feel. None of this is possible without you showing up. It's not possible without me showing up, obviously, but without you, nothing happens. And so I cannot stress enough how much I thank you. If you like what I'm doing over here, let me know down below. Give me a like, a share, a follow, throw me a comment whether you agree or disagree with anything that was stated. Put it in the box down below, and if it remains respectful, it gets to remain up. If you really like what I'm doing over here, hit me with that super thanks. Consider joining for a membership, picking up a copy of my book, although you might want to wait a little bit closer to Black Friday. Is it Black Friday? I don't even follow it, right? It's the day after Thanksgiving. It's got to be Black Friday. Like, I don't get into that materiality stuff. There will be a second edition, almost certainly, by the time Black Friday rolls around. So you may want to wait for the second edition, but if you really like the channel, go ahead and pick it up with the warts and all. Or reach out through any of the links provided down below for either direct support or for services which are available. To the crew, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been pittstake. Peace.